Hello and welcome to everybody today. We got another great MMA fighter. It's Jose Shorty Torres. Can you please talk about in the introduction? Tell please all the titles you earned.
Oh man, it definitely spans from amateur and professional titles. I mean, I was a college All-American, college graduate as well, which I always like to put out there. I was a two-time national Muay Thai champion. I was an international kickboxing champion, Pan American kickboxing champion, two division and simultaneous Titan FC champ. I was the first ever two-time IMF world champ, and hopefully soon enough, two division Brave champion. But that's soon enough.
Wow, that's a lot of titles, man. Way a lot of titles. Why did they monic you Shorty?
Excuse me.
Why did they give you a nickname Shorty?
It actually runs in the family. Besides us all being very small, I am a short person. I believe centimeter is 163 or five foot, or 5 foot 4. My father was named Shorty, and that was his gang name, Shorty G. So for me, I was always known as Little Shorty G. So technically, my full nickname is Little Shorty G. But it's been I've had it literally all my life.
Oh, awesome. When did you start training and in which style? Because I'm kind of unsure what's your fighting style because you're pretty much well-rounded.
My favorite three are boxing, Muay Thai, and Judo. I like to come in boxing, and people usually, don't like my pressure, so they like to tie up. I love the knee, I love the clinch, I love the elbow, and then from there, because of people not really being too acquainted with the Muay Thai, I love to set up a big throw and be nice and flashy. I was a college All American, and that was my style in wrestling. With American wrestling, I'm a judo guy.
That's awesome. So, do you have a trademark strike?
Um, when I was an amateur, my biggest one was Superman punch. I think now as a professional, everyone's usually pretty wary of my right hand. I'm always pretty active with it. That's something I definitely like to do, but I really want to get my left hook better. I mean, I was able to finish Abdiel Velasquez with the left hook. I've been able to drop a lot of people with my jab. I just want to be more of a well-rounded fighter, not just a power puncher with one hand. But right now, I believe my right hand is my biggest weapon.
You mentioned amateur runs, so did you have the toughest amateur rival?
There was a guy I fought twice. His name was Carl Rogers, and it was funny because watching him before I fought him, it was a tournament for the national title to compete at Worlds. And watching him, I'm like, oh, I'm not worried at all. I believe I can beat him. He's gonna be a tough fight, but I believe no problem I can beat him. But for some reason, I thought too much of the moment, and by the time I got in there, I froze. And he ended up hitting me so hard three times that I fell all three times he hit me. One of them, even while blocking, he punched straight my hand, and I, in a sense, dropped myself. That's how strong he was. But I was able to push through and win because of my wrestling. And then I was able to rematch him a year later for the same title. And I was able to dominate the fight and just show how much I improved since the year before.
In your first professional MMA fight, I mean, was it hard for you? Did you have a fear? I mean, it's a professional level, and
For me, my biggest fear wasn't the fight. I never realized how much hype I had turned professional. I just thought I was another person winning titles and turning pro. Some people win, some people lose, and just so happened that I was winning. I was just listening to what my coach said. So by the time I turned pro, one guy's like, "Man, you're doing all these interviews. People love you, yada yada yada." And one guy goes, "Hey, Shorty, just remember you make your pro debut once in your life. That's it. So don't mess this up." I'm like, "Oh, wow, thanks for the pressure." And for some reason, that whole week I had a lot of anxiety. I was very nervous, but by the time I got into the cage, I knew what I needed to do, and I got it done.
yeah, you got it done pretty well. About ground game, do you have favorite submission or you're fine with every submission? How do you do
Um,
this?
I'm fine with every submission. The only problem for me is I am a shorter fighter. I am a short wrestler, so because of my stocky nature, doing arm bars or doing triangle stuff like that is a little harder for me. I'm not as flexible as I'd like to be, but for me, I've been so good and well rounded with, and I'm working with Dean Thomas a little more about it as well, is taking people down and always looking for the rear naked choke without hooks. And it's something I've been able to do very well, whether it's from the front standing guillotines or from the back or rear naked choke. That's how I was able to finish my first fight in the standing guillotine. That's how I was able to finish. I think one of my last fights in Titan FC, besides the one I knockout, before that I was able to get a rear naked choke without the hooks in. So, it's for me, it's a choking nature. I'm a wrestler.
You mentioned Abdul Velasquez. How did you exactly finish him?
I finished him with a left hook, and while he was going down, I caught him with my left knee. And the ref was able to stop the fight immediately once he hit the ground and stop me from finishing the fight fully. In a sense, I won by TKO. And Aldio Velasquez was a good opponent, man. He moved around a lot. Me, I'm more of a stationary guy. I like to stand and bang and trade and put on an amazing show. But he moved around a lot. Was trying to be more of a Dominic Cruz, TJ Dillashaw type of style. But I was able to capitalize on some of the small mistakes that he made, and I was able to get the best of it.
So you're trying to say that you're the guy who controls the center of the octagon pretty much, right?
100%. I'm a person that even though I am generally a counter fighter, I am a pressure counter fighter. I like being on the inside because I am a small person. I love the fire. So when I walk forward, a lot of people, always tend to move back. And if they don't, they're in my pressure, but I also wait for them to attack. So when people want me to get away, they throw a jab or they throw whatever the case may be to get me away. And that's where I start activating my counter skills. And it works in my game very, very well. So the center of the ring, the center of the mat is my type of style.
How did you finish Pedro Nobre?
Pedro Nobra, I knocked him out in 86 seconds. It was one of my favorite fights because I felt so calm. I felt that was my perfect fight. I was very nervous mentally training for him because he was such a good fighter. 18-2, he was a UFC vet. Went the distance to Elliott, who at the time went the distance with DJ. And so I was just so excited to fight him and really show the world and even the UFC at the time, especially the UFC, what I could really do. And I don't know, I didn't even warm up for that fight. I was just so mentally prepared that every strike that I decided to throw, I only threw a handful. All of them landed, or at least like 80% landed. And I was able to drop him or at least daze him 3 times to where the ref was like, all right, this is just too much damage. And they stopped the fight.
Were you the only two division champion?
For Titan FC, I was the only two-division champion, and I was also the very first ever two-time champ for the IMUF. Now there's been a handful more, but I'm trying to do something different. That's also what I'm trying to do at Brave now as well, is be a two-time champ at the same time.
I've seen in your games an ability to eat a lot of body shots. So what exactly do you do? I mean, when opponent attacks you to the body, you keep going. It's pretty much very rare to see.
It really depends on where you get hit. I mean, I've been hit. I mean, when I fought Alex Perez, his very first strike was a jab to the head and a right hand to the body, and it caught me in a very perfect place. But I was able to keep a nice poker face where my adrenaline was strong enough to keep walking forward. But I've taken, especially in practice, maybe because my adrenaline's not that high, where I've taken body shots and I've crumbled. I mean, even sparring with TJ Dillashaw, I remember him. Throwing a front snap kick, a teep kick to my solar plex, and I immediately collapsed. So it really depends on the point and place, but I do train my body. I do ab work. I do a lot of strength and conditioning for my body just in case because, hey, I can take many shots to the head. But you take one good shot to the body, a lot of people fall, and I take confidence in that.
Let's get a look at that rear naked choke. Was it against the Jesus? How you call him? The Jesus?
Yeah, Gleason de Jesus. He was an amazing fighter. I train at his gym now. He's not there anymore. I think he just decided to do something else in his life and his career. But I was looking forward to training with him too because he is an awesome person, an awesome athlete, and he gave me one of my toughest fights as a professional so far. He was very, very tough and much bigger and stronger than me. So being in the center of the ring with him was hard for me to do. I had to play a little different and now be an MMA fighter instead of a boxer or a brawler. Then I had to take him down, and I saw him relaxing a little bit. I decided to do more of what you call bully choke, which is kind of like getting someone in a nuggie. And he didn't move, so I was like, oh, maybe I could put the hooks in. And from there, I was able to solidify the rear naked choke and get the much needed finish.
About Aureliano, what I wanted to ask you from that battle, you changed levels a lot, and correct me if I'm wrong, you finished via changing levels that fight, right?
Yeah, so one of the things was I was doing a lot of pad work with a guy named Steve Bruno, and I mean I watch a lot of boxing, and that's something I love to do. And changing levels is what I was trying to utilize more. So when I was working with him, that's something he really implemented during our pad sessions, and so it became very, very natural, and it became very normal for me to do. So once I started throwing more punches, I was like, man, he's blocking to the head a lot, or I'm throwing haymakers to the head a lot. Let me start mixing up to the body to bring his hands down, and I ended up doing one of Bang Muay Thai Dwayne Ludwig's combinations, and I was able to get the finish because of it. And I used to train with Dwayne Ludwig and TJ Dillashaw as well, so being able to mix those two together just worked out perfectly, and I was able to get one of those, highlight career finishes.
Yeah, it definitely was. Now, the controversial match against Brooks. Alright, according to my opinion, it can't be a fluke because I watched the match between Gray Maynard. How was that other guy? I think Rob, how was. In
Yeah,
that
where he
case,
knocked himself out.
yeah, but Gray Maynard, he was throwing him and he slammed his head. But I think you manipulated Brooks into slamming himself. I mean, it can't be a fluke. There's no way it was a fluke. What do you say?
So it wasn't a fluke, and the reason why I say that is because Jared Brooks, and I saw his fight before that, given I only had 9 days to prepare for Jared Brooks because I had 26 pounds and a very last minute call. But he ended up fighting, I think it was Figueroa before that. And even though he lost, he picked up Figueroa 8, 9 times and took him down in big slams. So I go, if Jared gets me in the air, he's more than likely going to go for a big slam. Well, this time he put me in the air instead of the little takedowns he was doing earlier. He got me in the air. I was like, whoa, I'm a wrestler too. I was an All-American in college. He was a state champ in Indiana, which is a very, very tough state. So I know he's good. I'm thinking if I go parallel like this and lock his hips, he won't be able to move, so he won't be able to arch and slam. But in college, when people get you in that position, you usually go down to your knees and roll to your side, and now it becomes a scramble. Now it's a 50-50. But he decided to still do the big slam. The only problem is he went the wrong way, and I fell right on top of him. So it was at that point, I think the pressure got to him, and it was an amateur mistake. I fell right on top of him. So technically, I caused it, but it was still technically his fault. He's like, screw it, I'm still doing the slam. He dazed himself. I just went behind him and finished the job.
While you were in the air, while you were going towards the bottom, did you do something that that stopped him from from that position? Did you, for example, I don't know, rotated his shoulder, locked his hips, or?
So what I did was I locked his hips. So when I squeezed my body or squeezed his body, I just gable gripped and squeezed it all the way, so he could not turn in any direction. So his hips couldn't move. And then also I pressed my chest up against his back so he couldn't arch. So if he decided to fall the way he did, he ended up falling like a board, just going straight up and going down. And the bad thing was because he decided to do the move that I knew he was gonna do, he forced it. And my legs were right on top of him, and my leg landed on his head. So in all technicality, I did it, but he forced that move to put myself in that position. So hey, it's really a 50-50. But when I got on top of him, I knew he was dazed, and you got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, of course, but why were people telling that much that it was a fluke? I mean, to me, I watched this move 10 times, and to me, I really don't think it was.
Hey, I mean, people can say what they say. I'm the one in the octagon cage, and I know what it feels like. I mean, Jared Brooks said it was a great idea to lock the hips. He even told me after that he tried to force the throw, and it just didn't happen in his favor. But again, so be it. We all make mistakes. I know obviously he's learned from it, watching his past fights, and for me, it's something I used to do in college all the time to prevent from getting slammed.
About Alex Perez loss, how did it happen? You said he caught you early on. What happened then?
Honestly, I lost before I even went in there. Monday, so the fight was Saturday. I got there on Monday, and I was so mentally broken from so many things behind the scenes, and also another last minute weight cut and how the UFC was treating me, that I just wanted to lose and have two more fights. I wanted to go 3-1 in the UFC. For me to be so mentally broken, to be on a 34 fight winning streak and say, I kind of just want to lose and go home, that's something mentally damaging. And I've been fighting my own mental trauma as well. But going into that fight, I expected to lose. I did everything poorly for this. Everything was working against me. And by the time I got in there, he landed an immediate right hand to the body. I was like, oh my God, this is a fight. And when he caught me, I was just like, it took the wind out of me, but I still ended up walking forward. And it was crazy because I believe, and even still now, I see the fight in slow motion. He was trying to knee me. He was, landing punches and strikes, and he caught an elbow on the top of my head. I remember bleeding in the first 30 seconds, and I saw everything in slow motion, but for some reason, my body just didn't want to react. My body it was like a bad day at work. And by the time I saw him open up, I threw one right hand, and I think one of the only punches I threw in the fight, I landed. And I dazed him for a second, and I just decided not to walk forward. I just was 100% careless in that fight, and He ended up capitalizing, landed a couple strikes, and tiring my body out. I think I took 107 strikes to the head and body before my body finally gave out. When Frank Trigg, came in and stepped in, I mean, I was still conscious, but my body wasn't going to take anymore. So when I collapsed, I think it was an amazing decision to stop the fight. I mean, I was excited for it. I've always wanted to fight Alex Perez after I saw him in the Contender Series, and I hope I get a rematch. But I fight him 100%. But that's one fight that I'll always remember because it's not that I lost. I don't mind losing. That's happened. I lost the whole beginning of my career. I lost 100% at my worst. And it's one of those things where I'm always going to say every single day, no matter if I beat him 10 times later on, it's woulda, shoulda, coulda. So it's I wish I would have tried my best and lost, no matter what mental frustration I was going through, than what I did and kind of give up before I went in there and be demolished the way I did. And because of it, because of the whole controversial 125-pound division being let go, and the things I said to the UFC, I ended up being released first, because of that poor outcome and obviously the accidental KO of Jared Brooks.
Well, yeah, about the UFC unfair treatment. I think it was a pretty much unfair treatment, but also Dana White was thinking of shutting down the flyweight division. He changed his mind later, but I think he was looking for victims. That's what I
I mean,
think.
I don't know how much he's changed his mind because there's only about 12 guys in the division still. So sadly, every single guy is ranked, even though I don't believe half of them deserve to be ranked. Everyone's up for a title shot technically. It's just there goes my alarm to speak to you. It's just one of those things that um, when I got signed to a dying division. So I got signed for the basic contract, the Ultimate Fighter contract, which is very, very, very small. But with my resume, there's no one in history in the UFC entering the UFC that had my type of resume in MMA at least. And I thought I was gonna be making some good money or at least be respected properly. And they didn't care if I was any other weight class. I would have been treated like a beef. I would have been treated like Connor. But because I was a flyweight, I was treated like a flyweight. So I got last minute fights, and so be it. So I took those fights. And when DJ didn't take the fight with TJ, that's when Dana White made those accusations. I'm going to cut the whole flyweight division. And I made a video about this. I had my own YouTube series called Inciting Shorty, and that's why I actually got released, is because of my
You will
video, the
send me
things
your
I
YouTube
said.
channel, please. You will message me
It is
that.
Inside Team Shorty on YouTube, and I posted the video actually around Halloween. I'm wearing my Stitch onesie. It's about DJ being traded to ONE FC and Ben Askren being traded to the UFC. I said before that even happened, if Dana White wanted to cut the whole flyweight division, even though we had the UFC's best champion in its history, then what are we going to do after he's gone? I mean, we don't have a Conor McGregor. We don't have a Colby Covington. We don't have any other guys that are super popular like that. Yeah, maybe we have Joseph Benavidez and at the time Sergio Pettis, but they're not cash kings. They're not pay-per-view. I think DJ was only a main event twice or three times out of his 12 title fights, 11 title defenses. So there was no respect to it. And I ended up being right. And I said because of DJ being traded, I think the UFC flyweight division is going to be released. And sadly, I was right. They didn't like what I said. My accusations were right 100% spot on, and I got cut first. And after that, it was a domino effect. Jared Brooks got cut, Justin Scoggins, and everyone either finishing their contract or coming off the loss got released. So I didn't get to finish my contract. So I was only in the UFC technically for, let's see, 5 months, 6 months.
How is it your new promotion? I mean, is it better treatment or and your last fight, of course?
I think Brave has been. Let me rephrase that. I know Brave has treated me so much better. I mean, I've known those guys for years, even before they started promotion. So they really do take care of me. I'm making a lot more than what I expected to make from outside promotion UFC. I'm making what I expected to make in the UFC, and Brave has treated me that well because they believe that I can be something. I know I can be something. Sadly, I only fought once last year because again, I've been going through some mental trauma. My last fight, I backed out 2 days before when I was supposed to be the headliner of the biggest event in Asia, and sadly things just didn't work out the way it did. But they understood everything, and they've been very very respectful and really taking care of me. And I'm hoping to fight at the end of March, early April. I've been telling them, and I'm actually starting my training camp today just in case. So maybe I'll fight Marcel Dur for the title again. That's what I really hope. I know he's always down to do it, especially for a title, but I want to be able to show the world that I'm mentally there again and I'm ready to put on a show.
So, what's your walking weight? I mean, you walk on 150 or
Oh no, I walk around about 160. That's usually my
160?
walking around weight. Yeah, so I don't know what that is in kg. I believe what is that 72? That's about 72 kg, and I fight 57. So going down, it's
72 or
it's not.
73, something like that.
Yeah, you give or take, maybe 72.5. We'll be happy. So
Yeah.
I'm about 160 naturally, and I go all the way down to 125. So it is a tough weight cut, but now some of the things I've been going through mentally is my weight, is my mental struggle with depression and anxiety. So one of the things I'm going to definitely do is spend more time and especially money on myself to be able to make sure that I can be the best I can be. And if I do lose, which is always a great possibility because one shot can end it all, if I do lose, at least I can say I tried my best compared to the Alex Perez fight where I gave up before I even entered the cage.
So you said who will you fight next? Would you like to add something about Wilson Rice? He goes after you. He just said me that he has training, but I'll post this both interviews on Wednesday, and you'll see. I'll send you. I don't know what's next
Yeah.
for him. He should have been before you, but he has some training. He will be later, and
It's crazy because if I would have beat Alex Perez, I would have actually called out Wilson Hayes. That was the person I wanted to fight next because at the time when he was in UFC, he was slowly going down because he was highly ranked and highly respected, and again a very good jiu-jitsu black belt and a very good fighter. But I believe he was out of his prime. I'm a young athlete coming up, still not even in my prime today. He just got knocked out by Cejudo, I believe, and I was just so excited to fight him. I thought it would have been a fan entertaining fight that I would have loved to put on the show, but sadly I got released and then he got released after losing to Pantoja. So I have nothing but respect for Wilson Hayes, and I hope nothing but the best for him. I don't know what he's doing next, but fingers crossed that I see him one day in Brave or whatever the case may be, because he is an amazing fighter. He's one of the prodigies, and pioneers of the flyweights. So I have nothing but love and respect for him.
oh, great, absolutely great. Would you like to add something?
No, one of the biggest things for me is I have my own foundation. Everything that I sell for my merchandise is teamshorty.com, and 100% of the proceeds go to my foundation, which helps keeps kids, teens, and young adults inside the gym and off the streets. I'm from Chicago. We have the biggest shooting rate in the United States, and we have a lot of gang shootings, a lot of random violence, a lot of pointless violence, and I believe being able to keep kids and just people in general safe inside the gym and teach them responsibility or morals, not even just to be a fighter, is a great way to change your neighborhood, and that's what I'm trying to do as well. I'm trying to be a Manny Pacquiao, but in Chicago. So the Team Shorty Foundation, TeamShorty.com, anybody buys, everything ships worldwide, and I appreciate all love and support, and that's why I do say we can, we will, together we are Team Shorty.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for this lovely interview. And don't forget, please, to send me links. You can on Twitter or here, so I can post. I will post this on Wednesday because I'm currently not at home, as well as you can see. But on Wednesday, I'm posting this. I'll tag everything. And okay, you will just send me those links of your YouTube channel, your merchandise, and everything you have, so I can post in the description.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you too, Shorty. Have a great day.